Welcome to Destination Cross-River, the Policy and Investment Opportunity Podcast show. This is African Diaspora Channel's production in collaboration with Cross River Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Gloria Edet. Let me begin with this question today. What if the next big billion-dollar tech company isn't being built in Silicon Valley? But where? Right here in Cross River State. What if that happens? Wouldn't you be excited? Of course, I know you would be. Well, today on Destination Cross River, we sit with a man who mobilized $100,000 for local startups right here in the state. And that's because he believes so much in Cross River State. And I believe you do too. What are we looking at today? We are talking about the innovation economy right here in Cross River State, the digital frontier, investing in Cross River innovation economy, and the future of tech talent. Let me introduce my guest, but let me vocalize some snippets from his profile. Today's guest is a venture architect, a product strategist, and an innovation catalyst. He works at the intersection of startups, talent development, and innovation ecosystems. He is the founder and executive director of Ndifon org. Ndifon is spelled P-S-I-F-O-N. He has led programs that have mobilized over $100,000 in funding to support youth-led startups, drive digital inclusion, and foster entrepreneurial ecosystems, particularly in secondary cities like Calabar. He is the founder of Hack 51 Africa, a competency validation platform that enables talent to prove skills through real-world projects like helping employers hire with greater trust and efficiency. He currently serves on the job creation and placement team of Nigeria's National Digital Workforce Program, 3MTT, and that means 3 Million Technical Talent Program, a flagship initiative of Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. There, he leads innovation initiatives, including the National Launchpad Program, and contributes to workforce strategies, innovation challenges, and employment pathways, impacting learners nationwide. He is driven by a commitment to ensuring that Africa's innovation future is locally built, globally relevant, and economically transformative. Help me welcome on set today, Mr. Patrick Ndifon Jr. You are welcome.
It's great to be here, Gloria, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, and I'm most delighted to have you here on the podcast today. Let's start this way. I know that you're part of the narrative of people who believe in Cross River State. I remember a few years back when a lot of people who belong to the tech industry decided to take off. Let me use that word, Japa. But you're still here. You're still here in Cross River State. You're still pushing through. So what is that belief you have in the States? What is that thing that keeps you believing that you can do the things that you have been able to accomplish here in the tech ecosystem of Cross River State?
All right, thank you for that question. The way I was raised was to be a problem solver and a nation builder. My dad, bless his soul, he's late, and my mother, who's alive, they're instilled in us, a sense of agency, right? Ownership for the environment that you find yourself in, ownership for your own purpose and destiny. And that's how we were raised, basically, not necessarily confining to whatever trend or ways is common within the world, but to find your own path and then pursue it. And so throughout life, I've always been that. I wanted to be a computer scientist. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was much younger. And as I grew older, that, became more accurate and precise. And I wanted to be a computer scientist. Then eventually evolved into me becoming a product manager. And for a place like Cross River, I sort of like see it as a land full of opportunities where we can innovate, because we're rich in lots of mineral resources. And if you look at first world countries that have developed immensely, they relied on their natural resources as the foundational level of their growth and innovation, use that as leverage to trade and eventually, build their societies into becoming first world, as we would say. And so for me, I'm from Cross River State. This is my home. There's nowhere I would go that will ever be home to me. I was born here. I grew up here. And so I sort of have a sense of duty, so to speak, towards this environment to make it what it can be. And there's also a scriptural, backing to that. The Bible says that pray for the prosperity of the city in which you are in, so to speak. So yeah, I strongly believe in that. And that is why I am still here. I believe that there is immense potential, and it's fun solving problems. So this is a great problem to solve for me.
And I quickly remember the narrative, or what I call it. There's a line that you came up with last year that's Calabar is not small, right?
Yeah. So the reason I came up with that was, over the years, people would say things like nothing is happening in Calabar, and they would complain. So you find people complaining more than taking action to get results. And it's funny because everybody calls Lagos a big place, but geographically, Calabar is nearly over 7 times larger than Lagos, thereabout. But Lagos holds about 25 million or so people, compared to Calabar is around 6 to 9 or thereabout. Cross River State is around 6 to 9. So it's funny that people will say this is a small place. The Lagos is just barely bigger than Calabar, which is the city of Cross River State. So that sort of like made me come up with that line. Like, no, you can't compare Calabar to Lagos. You're comparing a state to a city, right? For you to even do that means that the city somehow has some kind of, weight, right? And then I also wanted to challenge people to stop pushing blame on their environment, because there's no environment that was perfected from day one. People built it. So we all have a responsibility to transform our environment and make it, the talk of the town or that ideal thing that we want it to be. So yeah, Calabar is not small. We have great people here. We have great founders who have left here to build great startups and those kind of things. So if great people can come out of here, then it's definitely not a small town.
I agree with you. And we are the architects of our own environment and the future that we are talking about. So let's get into talking about your world, the tech world, the tech ecosystem. Let's have you draw a historical map from when you came in and where it is. A few years ago, when you stepped into the tech ecosystem, where was it? And right now, where do you think the tech ecosystem in Cross River State is?
I like history. So, and every time I get the opportunity to talk about the history of the tech ecosystem in Calabar, Cross River State as well, I always, relish that opportunity. I think because a lot of people do not understand its history, and so they make assumptions that, there's never been an ecosystem. There's always been one. So I was born here, grew up here, but I left at around 2002. I traveled the world. My mom was traveling, so we had to go with her. So I spent about 6 years outside of the country, to 3 continents, and eventually came back in 2009 and started my undergraduate program at the University of Calabar. So I did my computer science degree there. Initially, I wasn't very into the tech ecosystem. I just wanted to do my computer science and go. But at my 300 level, I started to get involved in campus politics. I realized that computer science then wasn't a subject that people did intentionally. It was like, if you didn't get your ideal course, then you either fall back to microbiology or computer science, right? And everybody was like, when you study computer science, you go own a cafe, but people didn't understand the opportunities that laid in that field. And so I sort of like saw a lot of people not taking advantage of what they were learning. So I had to take responsibility and say, look, we need to help these people see the opportunities that lie within computer science, within technology, and all those kind of things. And that made me to now begin to explore external partnerships and opportunities within the ecosystem. At the time, there was this hub called Ideas Hub at TINAPA that existed. It was a hub by the federal government, and it existed at TINAPA to help young people get involved in tech. They had brought in Microsoft and a whole bunch of other top global firms to come and facilitate trainings and introduce new technologies to people. And I ran for presidency for my department, and I won unopposed. And so I had the opportunity and the leverage to introduce a lot of these programs to the students in the university, especially my department at the time. So I would take students from Unical. We would go all the way to TINAPA. We had an arrangement with them. They'll come pick us up twice a week. We'll go to TINAPA, go and learn skills and all of that. And at that point, I started to see that, yes, there's an ecosystem that exists. There was the Google developer group then. There were different communities who were all doing their own thing in their own little way to help introduce people into technology and innovation and all those kind of things. So that for me was sort of like my own introduction into the tech ecosystem. But then I found out from my lecturers that there have been initiatives even before then, people trying to do different kinds of programs, especially through internet cafes and those kind of things. And if I even think back to when I was much younger, I remember going to the cafes to learn Yahoo Mail and all those things. And there were a lot of internet connectivity during that period. So that activity has been there, but it hasn't been galvanized into this tangible force that can actually bring measurable impact. I think if I could put it that way. And so that's how the ecosystem has been. I really started doing real work in 2016, graduated in 2015, went for service, came back, and then I started Siphon, which was focused specifically on leveraging tech and innovation to drive economic growth, getting people to train them in tech skills, get them job opportunities, raising founders who can build startups that can raise investments, capital, those kind of things, and create jobs, bringing money into the economy and all of that. And so far, then I think we've seen tremendous growth. I'm not so active as I used to be back then, but we're now seeing new people begin to take on the responsibility, people being inspired, being challenged, to drive that push to help the ecosystem really stand on its own. So yeah, the past has been nice, it's been inspiring, but I think that over the years we've done a very good job. The likes of Oyo Effium, Thomas Agba, Augustine Nugi, individuals like that in the ecosystem has helped the ecosystem become what it is today, really shaped it and given it the sagacity that it has.
Interesting. So over the years, you've been able to build some products. And can you share with us some of these products you've been able to set in place? Oh yeah.
We have, so my personal products include, our very first product was Badagry. So Badagry was a thrift market store. We would buy okrika from Watt Market, Marian Market, and then sell them on Shopify. At that time, we had raised about a 1.5 million naira in funding to run Badagry. This was 2018, but it was a terrible failure. We raised 1.5 million and only generated 40,000 naira in revenue. So that was our first startup experience and also our first funding experience. But it taught us a lot. And then subsequently, because of the work I do, I usually provide a lot of advisory, to startups. helping them build, helping them find funders, those kinds of things. And so I've advised multiple startups over the years. The person I built Badagry with went on to found on a company that didn't work. And then by his third company, which was Send Funds, it was a fintech application, that was successful because they had done several millions in transactions in a few weeks. And we talked about it and we put together a deck to raise $200,000. But the investors pulled out somewhere along the line. We were able to only raise $30,000 from that particular investment for that particular startup. And then my mentor, Apostle Emmanuel Etem, we had worked on a platform called AfriZone Mat that's currently live and active today. And they're even having engagement with the Afri-Exim Bank and top organizations across Africa. So AfriZone Mat is a platform that allows made in African products to be sold online and globally. And in the early days, we had raised about $50,000 in private equity funding. And that was able to now help, my mentor move the business to Lagos, expand and, deepen some infrastructures. Currently, I'm building an ed tech and a recruitment tech called Hack 51 Africa. On one side, we're helping, talents build job-ready portfolios that employers trust. And on the other side, we're helping recruiters, employers, de-risk hiring. We've won a grant. We won a $5,000 grant 2 years ago. We've gotten into several incubation programs. We're currently in one now sponsored by the Israeli government. So those are the products that I've built and worked on over the years. Apart from other side gigs, providing advisory, helping non-technical founders translate their ideas into products and those kinds of things.
You talked about Siphon, you've talked about Hack 51 Africa, and now we want you to talk about Pre-MTT. That is the one by the federal government.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So you're trying to ensure that these talents that we have here stand competitively with their contemporaries, whether in Nairobi or wherever. Yeah. So let's hear your success story on 3MTT.
Okay, so 3MTT is a federal government initiative, and the goal is to, empower young Nigerians with technical and digital skills. It's sort of like an introductory program, and the thing is, we believe that numbers matter. Right, the more people we have within the tech space, we increase our chances of uncovering new innovations. We increase our chances of economic empowerment and growth. Right, tech is an enabler. Tech is an accelerator. Tech is a disruptor. Right, and if we have many people who are attempting to leverage it, we are definitely sure that we can hit gold at some point or somewhere, within that mass of population. So we're not just training these talents to just know a tech skill. We're training them to be able to leverage that tech to solve problems within their economies, problems within their communities and societies. We're training them to build businesses, build innovations from those things. We're training them so that they can also empower themselves, right? Because if they can empower themselves, they can empower their families, they can empower their communities. So far, we've had tremendous success. The 3MTT program has been around since, I think this is going to be the third year. We're currently doing our fourth cohort. We've had fellows who have won laptops. We've had fellows who have gotten nearly over a month's supply of data. Fellows have won tablets. You have fellows who have gone on trips, job opportunities, funding opportunities, business incubation opportunities, and the likes. And some of the feedback I've gotten from people in the state is that, the 3MTT program has helped sort of like make understanding and getting into tech easy for them, because they're not paying for the courses. And if they come into the program, they have these incentives and rewards to help them go through the program. And people that started, they didn't have laptops, they now have laptops now. And I have one incredible story about Faith Igwe, a fellow, I think she was a cohort one fellow. She had just finished the program, and barely 2 months, she got a a job with a foreign company, So that's one of the remarkable success stories. It's not something you find often, that someone who just, got done with the tech training is not able to secure a job. People wish that a lot. So for us, that's something that's big coming out of Cross River State. But we've had other fellows who have come out of the program and then begun to take on initiatives of their own, either in cybersecurity. Some have gone to get involved in tech awareness to get more people to get involved in tech and all kinds of things. So the successes we've had has been very inspiring and truly remarkable.
The truth is, I would have been surprised if you didn't record these success stories because, from Siphon, we've seen the likes of the young people who were with you. Some of their stories are also similar to this.
Oh, absolutely.
Precious. And talk about that, please.
We have remarkable stories from Siphon. I think that for me is one of the reasons why I keep doing what I do. So there's Precious Johnson in Yang.
And her sister, right?
And her sister. So her sister is Abigail. And Abigail is quite remarkable because she sort of like picked up from what her sister had done and did times 10, in a very short amount of time. Precious started off as a very shy young lady. She really had a passion for tech and she wanted to be involved as much as possible and learn. And I think that's something I admire about her, that courage despite her own limitations. She kept pushing. She didn't have a laptop then. She won her first laptop, and got involved in coding, design, and all these things.
I would trek long distances.
Yes, absolutely. We trek long distances to events and, trainings and all that sort of stuff. Today, she's doing a master's in the US. I think something around design or thereabout. But over the years, she just has shown so much tenacity and growth, committing to the work, because that's one thing that people don't realize when you're in the tech and innovation space. You have to work hard. You're competing with global minds. So you can't be a local champion. Being a local champion is not bad, right? But in your thinking, you need to think about, how is this thing being done in the US? How is it being done in the UK? And can I meet that standard such that if I go there, I'm not going to be lacking, And people like Precious, they really gave that themselves to the process to become that. I'll also mention Covenant, Nsa.
Yes.
Precious and Covenant were I always sort of like give myself a pat on the back when I think about Covenant and Precious, because I brought the two of them together and they were such an incredible team. They went on to win Technovation regional event at the time. And to my credit, under my mentorship.
Well done.
And such an incredible pair. Covenant is doing so well. She's currently running her own, I think is a YouTube series, doing documentary on female influencers and entrepreneurs, across Africa. So these are young people that started with us at Siphon. I remember Covenant's our first event. We didn't have the money. That was our last cash. We spent 10,000 naira awarding the winning prize to Covenant for winning the pitch at that event. And she used that, added that to the money she had saved to buy her first laptop, So it's such an incredible story. It's great to see how much they have grown. There's so many others. There are people like Cecil, so many other people that have come through Siphon. Some of them are working for top firms. There's one, Joel Adepoju, is working for a jet company right now. Started as a digital marketer in Siphon. Now is currently digital marketer for a globally recognized jet airline. So incredible success stories that have come out from Siphon here in Cross River State, here in Calabar. And that's why I say Calabar is not small. You get, we raise incredible people. I like to call them giant killers, right? They go out there, and because of how they were raised here, they're not intimidated by the people they see out there. So they don't go to Lagos and be like, oh, I'm in Lagos. No. They say Lagos is just an outer for me to conquer. So yeah.
I would say well done.
Thank you.
Indeed, we start local, but we think global. Talking about taking us to the global stage with all of the products that you're involved in, we're talking about the innovation hubs and all of that.
Yeah.
Now, we are looking at a situation where the people in diaspora can connect with all of these.
Yeah.
They're hearing the stories, they're hearing all that are being done right here in Cross River State. How do you think they can connect with? How can they benefit from all the projects that you're involved in? How can they position themselves? And you can also go on to talk to us about how the government can also play a role, because whether we like it or not, even when we're talking about businesses, the government, they have a role to play to create enabling environments for businesses to thrive. So go ahead.
Awesome. So now I've been a beneficiary of, folks in the diaspora. When we started Hack 51, I used to tell people that I started Hack 51 with 450,000 naira. And all of that money actually came from people in the diaspora, people who were once here in Cross River State, have a passion for the ecosystem and want to give back, So they made those contributions and I was able to start Hack 51 with that amount of money. One of the biggest issues with folks in diaspora is that there is an issue of trust, right? A lot of people, and we all hear these stories, someone abroad is working hard, sending money back home. And then you have someone back home who is, taking advantage of that trust, right? Someone's trying to build a house, and then the family member or friend that they've trusted is either overbilling them or using that money for other means. And then when they eventually come home, they now see that the house has not been done. So trust is a big issue. For me, one of the things I have been able to do to be able to maintain that trust has been accountability. And that accountability is visible, right? Throughout the years, it's very clear. People can see the work that I have done. They can see the skin in the game that I have put in. And so it's easier for them to trust me. But beyond that, there has to be systems put in place, by the locals to be able to attract, diaspora individuals, right? And anybody in the diaspora who's interested in investing in the local space should not just put their money or their resources or time, whatever it is, into anything that is not properly structured, right? Anything that you can't demand accountability from. Because if you do that, then whatever happens, it's just going to be an anyhow thing, right? And you don't know who you're going to hold responsible. However, we have hubs that exist in this space. And let's say you're interested in funding startups. One of the ways you could do that is to partner with that hub and provide funding. And that's something that's been done today, especially through the Guru Hub, the Guru Innovation Hub, right? So they have diaspora founders who, I think one time they had someone who recently sponsored about 100 laptops for trainers, Now, another issue is that there are times when people want to fund these things, but let's say you want to train somebody in data analysis, and then you give them a laptop. Oftentimes people, they won't use the laptop for the training. They'll run off with it. We've had situations in 3MTT where we gave people laptops and they sold it.
Whoa.
Yeah. They sold it. And somebody tried to game the system to get another laptop. So all of these things are issues, right? But if there are systems in place, and those systems can be designed, it's not that they can't be designed. It's just a matter of, collaboration between that individual or entity within the diaspora space, collaborating with an individual or entity here, setting up a structure that is accountable, transparent, all right? And then you're able to now deploy whatever support or resources you have in this space. Now, when it comes to the government part, one of the big issues with us for the tech space is infrastructure. We used to have an internet provider called Starcoms. I don't know if people remember that, right? So Starcoms used to be a major internet provider here, but that's no longer the case. We have MTN and Airtel and all these guys trying their best, but when you have diverse options, right, you make all these other people sit up. And so infrastructure is very important. A lot of techies need solid infrastructure, internet connectivity, electricity. Those things need to be available. Then access to credit, access to funding for not just SMEs, but startups. And I'm not talking 500K, I'm talking 5 million, 10 million, right? All the way to billions of naira. The government has to make that funding available if we want to actually turn the state into an economic hub. there's no country that becomes a strong economic hub without research and development. And research and development just really connotes innovation, basically, right? Without research and development, you can't have innovation. We have all the resources available, but we just need individuals who can get involved in that space, do the research, come up with ideas, develop them, and turn them to working solutions. But it's not going to happen with mouth. It's not just talk, right? Money has to be involved. So the government has to make that funding available. But obviously, we can't always depend on government for everything. Private sector, the guys in diaspora, right? So this may come off. I have to be careful as I say this, right? I've lived abroad for over 6 years. And I always tell people this, right? If you're in a position to do something good, then it's your responsibility to do something good, not to push the blame to somebody else. If you recognize a need or something is wrong, instead of you complaining about it, take responsibility and do that thing. A lot of people that go abroad, they get exposed to how life is there. And usually when you converse with them, they'll ask you, why is this thing? You guys have this here. They are doing this thing here. Oh, you guys doing this thing here. Nigeria. Now, wow, you're so backwards. All those things.
Sounds very funny.
My mother does that too. So put your money where your mouth is, right? When you convert $100 to Naira, that's a lot of money. If you do 1,000 to Naira, that's a lot of money. And with proper structures and discipline, you can actually make some decent investments and progress, if you invest in the local space. I tell people I started Hack 51 with 450,000 Naira. Usually startups do not start with Naira. You're hearing USD.
No, yes.
10,000, 20,000, yes. 30,000. The reason I was able to do that is because I had the training and discipline over the years. I have an executive MBA in, Masters in Business Administration, right? So I learned how to break down an idea into the barest minimum and start it small. So I could start something. Obviously, not everything you can start small, right? But I was able to take that 450K and then start a business that has grown. We have about 600 users. We're raising funds here and then. We're currently building our platform. So you can, $5,000 would most likely not be a lifetime savings for most people living in diaspora. That's something that they can raise in months. All right. But with proper structure in play, they can turn that $5,000 into something very profitable and remarkable.
So let's say we're talking about figures now. So let's just follow that trend of thought. If you're given $50,000 today, I know you're already doing the math, $50,000. And a diaspora or someone living in diaspora is saying, I don't want to build a house.
Okay.
I want to invest in tech in Cross River states.
Okay.
What would be your recommendation as to the sector of tech? Because tech is really large.
Yeah, of course.
We can't say tech and then we say, okay, tech is just one aspect. Mm-hmm. It's wide. Yeah. It has different compartments. So what would be your recommendation to that person?
Well, $50 is small money. Actually, it's very small. And I say it's small because when it comes to investments, you want to diversify your portfolio yes. to reduce risk, right? So people call it hedging.
Well, do we push it up to $500,000?
But I know we can start with 50. So okay. let's do 50. Okay. So if somebody was to give me 50, right, I'll be grateful for it, obviously. But I think one of the spaces to invest in will be data.
Okay.
Right. So at least for a start, we have a very big data gap. So a lot of people are doing programs, building things on vibes and inshallah. Let me use that term, gut feeling, right? There's no facts. There's no data to ground what they're doing. Most data is not properly collected.
So by data, you're talking about information.
Yeah. So I don't use information because information is now what you make sense of the data. So data is like, so do we know how many people are doing farming in Cross River State?
Okay.
That what crops are they farming? where are they located, all of those things, right? Health data, I was reading something on the state of the primary healthcare, in Nigeria, and data collection is a big issue, right? The practitioners are not collecting data within the clinics, so you don't even know how many patient cases they have. You don't know who has what. When was there a breakout of so and so disease and all of that stuff. Investing in data is very lucrative in the long run, because eventually you're going to have there are people that would need that data to build solutions and systems to solve the problems that data is all about. This is an expo that I think I'll give to everybody. I've given this expo. I'm always giving it, but people seem to not, take the expo. But I'll also give it again.
It'll be taken here. I can assure you that.
Before the bill, I think there was a bill passed in the House of Assembly regarding removal of house agents,
yes,
from the rent market, right? I used to tell people that, look, if you're going to go into the rent space, don't start by building a platform that will connect tenants with landlords. Build a platform that collects data on the rent space. Collect where are the houses, who's renting, because when you have that data, you're now able to predict where the next development is going to happen, right? You can also predict when people are going to leave, when rents are going to expire, in which areas. You can predict when rent prices will go up and all of that stuff. Data is the new oil, right? So that data allows you to now make informed decisions. So that's where data converts to information. Information helps you to now make proper decisions regarding, okay, we need to start building in this area because we're seeing that there's a lot of interest going here,
yes,
right? Or we need to start advertising for vacancies in this area because we're seeing that people are leaving. Their rents are going to be expiring in this area, in this region. When you gather data within the space, it helps you make those kind of decisions. Rather, you can predict the future. You can predict where things are going to happen if you're able to gather sufficient data. So nobody has said it. Nobody has done that yet. Everybody's building an app to help people rent houses. Anybody who's able to gather data on the rent space will definitely be king.
Whoa. That's huge. I'm sure that someone is going to take that up, and I hope they'll give credit to Patrick. So beyond gathering data or investing in data, so let's say there's a pool of funding,
okay,
bigger than $50,000.
All right,
and you are put on the table with a group of investors. I know that you're very familiar with that, with pitches and sharing your ideas with people who are willing to make the right investment.
Mm-hmm.
So what would the next stage be? I'm not going to put a figure on that.
Okay.
So I'm just going to allow you to share with us. You've talked about data. What would the next step be then? So
I think if there was a pool of fund, one of the things I'm big on is research and development. Ideas, they fall like apples, they're everywhere. But most ideas are not grounded in reality. And so it's very important that research is done. We have a lot of startup failures because people just have ideas and then they just rush to build. There's that research gap. And if that funding is available, one of the things I would invest in is research and development. Agriculture is one space that is a very lucrative opportunity for Cross River State, but it's underdeveloped and also underutilized. We don't export our own chocolate. So there's this thing within economics, it's called, within global trade, it's called economic complexity index, right? It basically has to do with the complexity of goods that a country exports. So Switzerland exports Swiss watches, right? And you can't get a Swiss watch anywhere in the world except Switzerland, because the level of technology involved in designing a Swiss watch is so deep that it can only be found in Switzerland. Now, for us in Cross River, we have vast mineral resources, vast forest resources, lands, animals, all of those things. And we're not developing sophisticated byproducts from those resources. Chocolate is a sophisticated byproduct. Swiss chocolate can only be found in Switzerland. That's why it's called Swiss chocolate. That recipe is so unique, it's so inventive, so innovative that it can only be found there. It can't be found anywhere else, And so that brings massive economic value for them. For us, what research and development can do is that we can turn cocoa into some Cross River chocolate, something that is so unique that it's unique to Cross River alone. You can turn malina, which grows in crazy amounts across Cross River, into some amazing byproduct. Cassava doesn't have to be gari alone. It can evolve to maybe flakes or something else. And that's the power of research and innovation. With research, you can begin to uncover new opportunities, new byproducts from the existing natural resources that we have.
So we're talking about the tech industry here with you. And how do we reposition the tech industry here in Cross River State? Let's get on that assignment, because with you here in the studio with us sharing all of this, we need to establish the necessary frameworks that we need now.
Okay.
We know that we are not where we should be as far as the tech industry is concerned,
of course,
but there is still much more that can be done and should be done. And you have shared some of the ideas, what we should do, even to attract the diaspora. Now, what do you think we should do where we are to reposition? You've talked about the role of government. Beyond the role of government, the people in the tech industry themselves.
Yeah.
What do we need to do? So you need to talk to us. Now I'm saying us.
Yeah. And when you say us, I have something for the people in media. So if you do your research on the components of an ecosystem, right? Yes. One of those components is media. And I think we underplay the power and role that the media has in fostering innovation. Media shapes culture. Okay. We do not have a culture of entrepreneurship. We don't. People think we do, but we don't. We have a culture of civil service work, and politics. A young person finishes school, they want to either join government work or they want to become a politician. But we need a culture of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship that drives economies, But entrepreneurship comes with risks. People have to be able to embrace failure. People are frowned upon for failing. If you try something and you fail, the people will laugh at you and those kind of things. But we need these things to enable us to be able to discover new ideas, new opportunities. We also don't tell our stories. We tell gossips. We talk about one other trending news or the other that has nothing to do with the economic growth and stability of our state or our country as a whole. We don't celebrate the entrepreneurs as we should. They are very hidden. Even when government is giving rewards, they're not giving rewards to businesses. They're giving rewards to influencers, celebrities, and those things. It's not bad. It has its place. But then the entrepreneurs need to be elevated as well. They need to be showcased. Their stories need to be told. All right. Because the work that they do is very important to any economy. So part of what the media needs to do, and that's something we don't have in Cross River State. So we don't have anybody dedicated to telling tech and innovation stories in Cross River State. We do not have. So we don't even know what's happening when events are coming up, who's raised what, how founders are faring and doing and all those kind of things. And that's very bad. That's something that needs to be fixed. Then the other thing has to do with talent development.
Which is your core area?
Yeah. Because one of the reasons why a lot of businesses have left is because they can't find adequate talent in this space. There's always this very popular story of the media company that used to be at Tinapa, and how they would have to hire technical hands from Lagos, and that was expensive for them, bringing them hands from Lagos to do that work. So it was more cost effective for them to just move to Lagos because the talent was available. So if there's a massive investment to not just get people into the tech space, but also to scale that talent to global standard. And to be frank, it's actually not that expensive to scale talent.
So what does it take?
Let me, if I'm I believe in let's get it done. See,
Okay.
It's as simple as open an auditorium, put like 100 seats, drop laptops, provide access to training resources. Let people go there first and start learning. Once they are done, the next phase is to put them into a program where they can deploy those skills to building projects. That's basically something that we're doing at Hack 51. So the talents coming out of 3MTT will have a platform like Hack 51 where they can work on real projects and build their experience. So if you have 3MTT program that's for 3 months and you leave there, you can join Hack 51, and then for the next 3 months, you're building hands-on experience, working on real world projects. Obviously, the expenses are going to be things like, laptop, access to electricity, but there are many organizations who are open to partnerships and scholarships and provide training for free. I'm currently on a data analyst scholarship for 1 year. This is the second time I'm getting that, So these opportunities are out there, and they are even more open to organized bodies and even government if they go for those things. So I think money is not really the problem. It's will that is the problem.
All right. So you've just mentioned here that what we need to do is to operate a hub. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
A tech hub.
Yeah.
So bring the people together and begin that process. And you have done this in Hack 51.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know that the people who will be interested in that step-by-step process, so I know it's beyond, you make it sound like a walk in the park. I know it's not a walk in the park.
Yeah.
People may want to hear that process. Why should I decide to invest in a tech hub, in building a tech hub here in Cross River State, and not just maybe go to Lagos where all those things are already available and I can only scale, so I'm not spending a lot of money because it will require so much funding. We are starting from the ground. You've talked about the fact that we do not have adequate talent, and we are talking about the tech industry, isn't it? So now, let us hear from you what the nitty-gritty is.
Okay.
Because it's not enough for us to just say, you're making it sound like it's simple. I know definitely it's not simple. But if you open up, I believe that people can see the real picture and then connect with it. Yes.
Okay. So why I say it's simple is because I've been in this space for nearly a decade. So I sort of like understand the rudiments. If you go to Lagos to start anything, it's not going to be cheap. Even though Lagos has all the resources and everything available. But what Lagos doesn't have is land. Because it's oversaturated, right? And overpopulated. This is not to like take a shot at Lagos. That's the reality. And it's expensive to build in Lagos for founders, for anybody who wants to build in Lagos. And let's be frank, we have an entire country that still needs opening up, that still needs investing in. If you go to build a hub in Lagos, you're going to compete with a bunch of other larger hubs, right? In addition to the high cost of even starting out and building out a hub in Lagos. Yes, you might have, turnovers, but the guarantee that that hub will be successful is still very slim because, again, you're playing in what we call a red ocean, which is a very saturated market. But you see, the global market, the global economy is not limited to the location that you operate from. Building a hub in Cross River State is far more cheaper. You can definitely get concessions from the government, partnerships, those sort of things. Labor is also cheap. You can still find incredibly good talents that are in this space who you can afford to pay as staff for that particular hub. So if you have a hub, you set up a space somewhere. You have computers available. You have hired hands. You don't have to have so many. You can get online tools, online courses. that students can take on their own. I always tell people that sometimes I prefer online courses because these are done by experts, and a lot of times they are done in such a manner that anybody can learn them. Maybe in the hub, you provide people that can, provide support every now and then. In fact, those people don't even have to be in the hub. They can be remote. You understand, right? And they're just available to provide support there and there. So that training phase is actually quite easy to set up, because what we do at 3MCT is that, yes, we have physical learning centers, but the physical learning centers are more like places to co-create and for community. All right. And oftentimes, yes, there's learning done there, but the main learning is done online. So the fellows, they take their courses online, and if they have issues, they can convene in their hubs, ask questions, get answers, and those kind of things. Beyond the training, which is where the real work is how do these people take what they've learned and turn it into something tangible? Either if it's data analysis, can they build a dashboard? If it's software engineering, can they build an application? All of these kinds of things. Those things are very important. At that part now, that's where more hands-on will be needed, right? Because every idea, every solution, every project has its peculiarities. And so you're going to need experts who probably are available to guide, participants. But again, you can still do hands-on virtually. So you can have an expert that you can connect with and they can walk you through projects and all of that stuff. I think this is something that COVID opened our eyes to. The platform I'm taking a course on, they have something called Code Along. So you can watch someone doing a project and code along that project with them, So in a nutshell, right, you set up a hub, have a place where people can access resources online, get trained. They can access support through their training. That support can be in person or can be virtual. And once they are through with that training process, they are vetted, they are assessed. The next phase is for them to get hands-on, apply that knowledge into building an actual project. And it could be a project that can get them hired, or it could be something that can be turned into a business or a company. And then within that space, you can provide advisory, incubation support, all of those things. That's when the real money comes out. If it's a business, you have to talk about funding, right? Access to the tools. Maybe they need Amazon credits, or maybe they need to access a particular client or whatever it is, or they need to do some research somewhere. Then there's heavy investment involved in that place. So for that one, you could have a structure in place to ensure that, okay, look, the resources that were provided are being utilized for the purpose it is intended, right? And nothing is being wasted. Everything is done efficiently. And even if there are failures, at least we're able to get lessons from that failure. So at that stage, it now becomes a different ballgame entirely.
From the work you're doing in Hack 51, at the stage where the techies, let me call them that, are engaged in projects, right? These projects they're problems they're supposed to be providing solutions to, I believe.
Yeah.
For someone who is in diaspora and is interested in making such huge investments, what kinds of solutions do you think would appeal to them? Can you think of any? Have you worked on any?
Well, I'll start with Hack 51. It's one solution that can appeal to them. And this is, in fact, one of the target audiences we built Hack 51 for was actually diaspora founders. Okay. We have a lot of founders who are in the UK, the US. They've probably raised funding to build some product or service that they want to either deliver in Africa or even where they are. But they don't want to hire talent in the UK and the US because that's going to be expensive. So the average UK person might charge maybe $3,000 to $6,000 a month to work on a project. But in Nigeria, you can get someone that you can pay $500 to $1,000 on a month to work on that same project. But now the issue is that a lot of people lie. People manipulate and twist CVs and they pretend in interviews, embellish and all of that stuff. And you find out people hire someone who claims they are good, but when it now comes to the work, they can't deliver. And a lot of diaspora founders, experience this particular issue. So for a platform like Hack51, it'll be helping them, where we help them vet the talents that they hire from places like Nigeria, Africa, and other third world countries. They want cheap labor, but the cheap labor should not come at a cost. So Hack51 can help them. So that's a platform, that's a product you can invest in. The second thing you can invest in is agriculture. I know agriculture doesn't seem like a tech thing, but I always tell people that tech and innovation is not necessarily about coding. Yes, there's agri-tech where you can build, technology to help farmers. You can build solutions that leverages technology, right, to help farmers and all of that stuff. But again, going back to research and innovation, right? Research itself, innovation itself can be, what can we do with corn beyond, roasted corn, beyond cornmeal and all those kind of things, right? That is something that can be invested in.
Right. So looking into your innovation crystal ball, which of the sectors in tech do you think that we're going to have our own homegrown unicorn?
Homegrown unicorn.
Yes.
So let me first clear this, right?
Okay.
Tech is an industry on its own.
Okay.
But also tech is like an enabler, right? It can function in diverse industries, right? You can apply it to tourism, you can apply it to healthcare, you can apply it to agriculture, education, whatever it is, right? That's why you have all these X tech platforms. So it's ed tech, HR tech,
yes.
agri tech, all of those things, because tech can be applied in those spaces. In terms of where a potential, so we have this, me and the founder of Guru or Film, we have this secret competition. Well, it's not really secret, right? We are competing to see who will be the first unicorn.
Really?
So he's been building a platform called Iwang. It's a food tech platform. So people, pretty amazing, where individuals can become chefs and sell food online. So you can own your own store without necessarily having to rent out the space, and you can sell food online. So Iwang is an incredible platform. But in terms of where the opportunities lie, there are many factors to consider, which those factors are not really moving the way I should. I would have said agriculture because of the potential it has, but that industry is underutilized and is underdeveloped, right? Mechanization is not really happening there and those kind of things. But it's a tough one. I would say a potential will be, it has to be agriculture. Tourism is also the same issue. Our tourism industry has gone down. If the tourism industry is being fixed, let's say we have a lot of tourist centers and those kind of things, I definitely see a tech solution coming in that space.
No, sorry, let me interrupt you. The downside of tourism from the tech point of view, right? What do you think are the lapses?
So one thing that tourism really, I believe tourism relies on is destination, right? Experiences, right? And I'm not seeing where those experiences are in Cross River State anymore. We used to have, there's the Squaw Falls, there's a good cattle ranch and all these other places. And I now ask myself, if someone comes to Cross River State, what will be their experience? Where would they go to, right? We're not just talking, someone's coming here and then they're taking them to a club. That's not really tourism, right? People are coming to, experience the uniqueness of Cross River State. What would that experience be like? What would be a 6-day, 7-day, 10-day visit to Cross River State look like? I remember some individuals had done something like, I think ISEC is a group of young entrepreneurs. They did something called Experience Calabar, where they'll bring in people from different parts of the world who come, and then they would go to different spots in Cross River State and all of that. And they paid good money for that. So I imagine technology coming into that space and disrupting it, right? Especially with things like augmented reality, virtual reality, and all those kind of things. There are solutions that could be developed, So, but the question is now, those solutions have to be built on some existing infrastructure. So what are the tourist infrastructures that are active and present within the state that technology can be built on? And the thing about technology is that if you think deep and hard enough, you might even go off tangent, like things like furniture making, for example, could end up being a tremendous business. So there's a lady in Lagos who she uses virtual reality or augmented reality to allow her clients, take the furniture she makes and fit it into a room to see how it fits before they even buy.
Before they even buy.
You get so, and virtual reality is actually very accessible. It's not as inaccessible as people think. If you have a smartphone, certain smartphone devices can allow you to, experience virtual reality and augmented reality. So it's a matter of, look, that's why I say research and development, because research forces you to look at different industries and you begin to explore opportunities there. And thankfully we have AI. AI has made research very easy now. So you can just ask AI, I want to know more about this industry. Where should I look? Who should I ask? AI can provide a guide. You can even guide you on how you can even carry out that research to uncover new opportunities. So yeah. So for me, my crystal ball is hazy. My best bet is use AI.
Interesting. Well, this has been quite some level of conversation today. We are wrapping up right now.
Okay.
And I want you to land.
Oh, okay.
One, you're going to speak to the people in diaspora. You have already encouraged them to see the lights that we have here in Cross River State.
Yeah.
And then our techies back home, because again, while we are looking forward to receiving whatever would be coming in, so we can take Cross River Tech to the future, we can connect Cross River Tech with the future, we have to be ready.
Yes, we have to be.
We have to put certain things in place. And then back to our government, because they are at the center of it all. So just one liner for each of these stakeholders.
Wow. So I'll start with the people in Cross River State. I think they have to first believe in themselves, and you said one liner, so they need to believe in themselves, okay, and also be trustworthy and accountable and tell their own stories. For the people in diaspora, I think I would say that because many of them are ambitious and they have a very strong vision for the places that they've come from. Visions are not built overnight. Okay, they require resilience, hope and faith beyond, the what is rational and what is normal. You understand? But they should look to great countries like America. America. If people, some people have watched how America was built, and you've seen greats like Carnegie, Rockefeller, and all those kind of people. They made a lot of sacrifices, to build their countries, and they did not lose out on the rewards of the sacrifices they made. So the people in diaspora should see it as that, right? They've been put in a position where they can make tremendous impact within their space. That impact will not happen overnight, and neither will the return on investment. Neither will it happen overnight, but they should not give up. They should be resilient. Eventually it pays. One thing I know is that you keep trying at something for a time. Eventually you connect with the right thing that works for you and gives you that value that you're looking for. And for the government, I think, government is our daddy, sometimes, parents often they undermine their children. And my word to the government is, do not undermine the potential of the young people in the state. Do not, because you say, young people are problematic and all of those kind of things. that just means that they have incredible energy and their potentials are boundless. What is needed is support and guidance. And if government can provide that support and guidance, not only will they have won the hearts of people, but they'll be securing a profitable future for the government. Because people are profitable, they'll pay their taxes, and they're going to be willing to support, government initiatives going forward. So those are my 1+ liners, basically, for the stakeholders.
Thank you so much, Patrick Ndifon, for joining us today. And thank you for sharing all your experiences and how we can further invest in the Cross River innovation future, the tech talents, how we can develop them. And to you, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Destination Cross River. You have heard it from the tech architect himself, what we should do and how we should go about it. So, well, the ball is no longer in our court. It's in yours. Would you take the step? Remember that great wealth is not just about what you earn, but what you are able to lay up for the future. And so today we have been able to add one more brick to that foundation. Until we come your way again, please ensure that you follow us on the channel and also join us in the next episode. My name is Gloria Edet. I've been your host. See you next time.